A motorcycle crash shattered Valeria Valverde's dreams, leaving her family clinging to the precipice of despair at the hospital's edge. The doctor delivers the heart-wrenching prognosis: there's little chance of full recovery. As her mother, Liliana, calls upon the intercession of a young saint to plead for a miracle, the air thickens with desperation and hope. Can a mother's unwavering faith bridge the chasm between life and death? But to understand how we got to this point, we need to go back to the beginning. You won't believe what happened next, but before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The sun cast a pale light over Florence de San Carlos, its rays barely penetrating the heavy clouds that hung low in the sky. A sharp scream of metal tearing against metal shattered the morning stillness, followed by the sickening sound of a body hitting the pavement. Valeria Valverde, just 21 and full of dreams, lay crumpled on the ground, the smoldering wreckage of her motorcycle nearby. The world around her faded as sirens wailed in the distance, echoing the panic that swept through the small town. Eduardo Valverde clutched his wife's hand as they stood at the hospital entrance, the sterile smell of antiseptic invading their senses. His heartbeat drummed in his ears, drowning out the murmurs of the medical staff scurrying behind the glass doors. He could see the urgency in their movements, but all he felt was a paralyzing fear. Liliana, his wife, stood beside him, her eyes glassy, haunted by tears that tracked down her pale cheeks. They had not moved from this spot since the doctors admitted Valeria, clinging to hope, yet drowning in despair. Hours blended into an agonizing eternity. The waiting room was filled with the hushed prayers of other families, but the Valverdes couldn't hear them. Each tick of the clock sent jolts of anxiety through Eduardo as he imagined the worst. The vibrant laughter and ambitions of their only daughter were now a distant memory, replaced by a gnawing dread that threatened to unravel their already frayed spirits. The doctor finally emerged, his face masked, but the grim expression was unmistakable. "Severe traumatic brain injury," he said, his voice steady yet weighty. "Her prognosis isn't good. There's little chance of full recovery." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, suffocating their fragile hopes. Eduardo felt his knees buckle, but he held fast to the armrest of a nearby chair, grinding his teeth as he tried to process the unbearable reality. Liliana, shockingly composed, squeezed Eduardo's hand. She had a profound faith that guided her through the darkest moments of life, a faith that had only deepened in the years they had dedicated to the memory of Carlo Acutis. 2 years prior, she had stumbled upon a program on television detailing the extraordinary life of the young saint who had merged faith with technology. His story ignited a flame of inspiration within her, a light they desperately needed now. As the day slipped into night, they were allowed into Valeria's room. The soft beeping of machines broke the silence, a constant reminder of the life she clung to. Valeria lay motionless, her face pale, tubes running from her body to machines that breathed life into her. The sight splintered Liliana's heart. "My baby," she whispered, her voice breaking as she reached out to stroke Valeria's hair. "Please, sweet girl, fight for us." Days turned into a haze of disbelief and sorrow, overshadowed by the stark reality of Valeria's condition. The doctors continued to deliver news that knifed through their hearts. There had been no signs of improvement. Liliana's determination grew as uncertainty clouded their lives. She called upon the intercession of Saint Carlo with every prayer, desperately seeking a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. Growing increasingly restless, the walls of the hospital began to close in on her. It was then that she made the decision that would alter their tragic course. On a rainy afternoon, as droplets pattered against the windowpane, she whispered to Eduardo her plans to travel to Assisi, Italy. "I need to go to Carlo's tomb," she said, the urgency in her voice unmistakable. "I must pray for our Valeria." Eduardo, initially hesitant, saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire he had witnessed when she had first introduced him to Carlo's story. "If you believe, then we must try," he agreed, the weight of her conviction slowly easing his own despair. With every step Liliana took toward that pilgrimage, there was the stirring of a bond between mother and daughter, a thread of faith weaving through the uncertainty. In Assisi, surrounded by ancient stone and sacred silence, Liliana felt Carlo's presence embrace her like a warm light. A small image of Carlo Acutis, worn from prayerful kisses, was pressed to her chest as she fought back tears. Holding her heartfelt letter, she stepped toward the tomb, prepared to lay bare her deep yearning for her daughter's life. The path ahead was steep and riddled with emotional hurdles, but the promise of a miracle fueled her spirit. Would her journey to seek Carlo's intercession lead to the miracle she so desperately hoped for? As the airplane soared over the Atlantic, Liliana felt a whirlwind of emotions twisting within her. The breathtaking view of the clouds below seemed to carry a promise of hope, yet the singular thought of Valeria's still body in the hospital chained her to dread. She clutched the small image of Carlo Acutis tightly, drawing a sense of strength from its worn surface. This was her anchor, her lifeline to a faith that felt both fragile and unyielding. Upon arriving in Assisi, she was enveloped by a profound peace that settled over the town like a soft whisper. The air was crisp, alive with the fragrant scent of blooming flowers and the distant echoes of prayers. Each step she took toward the Basilica of Santa Chiara heightened her anticipation, her heart beating fervently against her chest. She was here on a mission, to plead for a miracle that could resurrect her daughter's hopes and breathe life back into her still form. As she walked, memories of Valeria flooded her mind. She recalled gentle conversations filled with laughter, moments where her daughter would eagerly teach her about technology with an enthusiasm Liliana struggled to understand. Valeria was a bright star in their lives, and the thought that she might never again fill their home with joy was unbearable. With every step, she felt the weight of her daughter's absence pressing down on her, a fusion of love and painful longing urging her on. Reaching the tomb, Liliana knelt before the simple stone marker, the resting place of Carlo Acutis. She could feel the sacredness of the location envelop her, pulling her heartstrings taut as she prepared to lay bare her soul. She opened her letter, the paper trembling between her fingers as she began to read aloud, each word imbued with her deepest desperation. Dear Carlo, my beloved daughter Valeria lies in a coma and the doctors say there is little chance of recovery. She is my world. I implore you, please intercede for her. Let your divine light shine upon her. I am desperate. The words throbbed with raw emotion, and as she spoke, her voice grew steadier. She is only 21, a bright star whose light has dimmed in this world. Please, Carlo, help her find her way back to us. Guide her spirit back to her body and grant her the chance to fulfill the life she was meant to lead. As the last words left her lips, a palpable shift enveloped her, a warm rush that coursed through her entire being. It felt like an embrace, a gentle reminder that she was not alone. In that moment, Liliana sensed Carlo's presence wrap around her, urging her to hold on, to trust in faith. After her heartfelt prayer, Liliana wandered through the surrounding gardens, richly adorned with vibrant flowers that seemed to echo the hope blossoming in her heart. The beauty of the earth contrasted sharply with the grief she felt daily in the hospital. The stillness of the gardens offered a moment of reprieve. Each bloom whispered promises of rebirth and renewal, echoing her own plea to the heavens. Please let me feel her presence. Please grant me faith. With her spirit revitalized, she returned to the hospital, a sense of clarity and purpose guiding her footsteps. However, upon her arrival, the hospital's sterile environment wrapped around her once again like a cold shroud. Each day, Eduardo and Liliana stood vigil, their hearts battling the relentless tide of negativity that washed over them with the doctor's reports. Eduardo awaited her return, his eyes weary but hopeful. "So, how was it?" he asked, a slight tremor in his voice betraying the tumult of his emotions. "I felt him, Eduardo. I felt Carlo's presence there. I prayed with everything in me. I believe something shifted," she replied earnestly, desperation mingling with hope as she held his gaze, searching for reassurance. The weak flicker of hope lightened Eduardo's apprehensions. "Do you really think it could make a difference?" he asked, wanting so much to believe in her conviction. "I have to believe it will," Liliana insisted. "We cannot lose faith in Carlo's intercession. We must keep hoping." In the unrelenting days that followed, the Valverde family continued to grapple with the harsh reality of their situation. Valeria remained in a deep slumber, and with each passing dawn, the weight of dread bore deeper into their chests. Every morning began with Eduardo's familiar, weary walk down the hospital corridor, clenching Liliana's hand tightly as they prepared for what news awaited them. Doctors would emerge from the sterile confines of Valeria's room, their faces painted with clinical detachment, all delivering the same disheartening updates: no signs of improvement. We're doing everything we can. Grief festooned their evenings like a heavy cloak, leaving both parents searching for strength in the silence of Valeria's room. They clung to memories interspersed with moments of quiet despair. In those fragile hours, as minute by minute passed, they whispered stories to Valeria, hoping she could hear them somehow. "Remember that time we went to the beach? You danced in the waves, laughing as they crashed around you," Liliana recounted softly, her voice breaking with emotion. She wanted Valeria to feel their love, to know her family was there, waiting for her return. Yet, as time crawled on, each breath of hope began to feel like an ember extinguished by the suffocating weight of despair. It threatened to coalesce into a fog that obscured the promise of miracles. Would their love truly pierce the chasm that had opened up? Would their daughter find the strength to wake? As the days blurred together, Liliana and Eduardo leaned into faith, desperately believing that somehow their love and prayers would resonate with Carlo Acutis, awakening Valeria's spirit. The path forward was fraught and uncertain, but they refused to abandon hope. Hope became their silent mantra linking their hearts, a thread not easily severed, tightly woven to the belief that miracles were possible even in the darkest hours. Would they soon witness the unfolding of a miracle, the arrival of their beloved daughter back into their lives? The weight of helplessness pressed down on Liliana as she sat in the hospital waiting room, her fingers nervously dancing over the beads of her rosary. Every sound echoed her anxiety: footsteps in the hallway, the distant beeping of machines, and the hushed conversations of doctors discussing outcomes she could hardly bear to consider. In the stillness, all she dreamed of was a sign, a flicker of hope that might pierce through the darkness that enveloped her family. On one particularly dreary afternoon, after hearing yet another grim report about Valeria's condition, Liliana felt a deep yearning to do something more, to take a leap of faith that could change the course of their tragedy. She needed to reach out and connect deeply with the divine, beyond the walls of the hospital that had become a cage of despair. "Eduardo," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need to go to Assisi again. I must go to Carlo's tomb. I believe it can make a difference. I have to plead for Valeria's life." Eduardo's brow furrowed in concern. "But Liliana, you just went. What if it doesn't change anything? What if it's too much?" A flicker of frustration ignited within her, quickly doused by the profound sense of sorrow that shadowed their lives. "I can feel something, Eduardo. I need to make this pilgrimage once more, to offer my prayers wholeheartedly, to show Carlo that we desperately need his intercession. It's a mother's instinct." After an agonizing pause, one that stretched until it felt like eternity, Eduardo reached out, taking her hands in his. "If this is what you really believe you need to do, then I'll support you. We can't ignore any path that might bring Valeria back to us." Days later, as they prepared for Liliana's return to Assisi, the shadows of doubt loomed large in Eduardo's heart. He wanted to believe in Liliana's faith, to trust that their prayers would reach Carlo Acutis. With each passing moment, he found himself pacing their small apartment, mentally sorting through the prayers he felt he could no longer articulate. Liliana's unwavering resolve reassured him even in his moments of faltering confidence. Liliana's journey back to Assisi was a whirlwind of emotions. With each mile, she felt as if she was stepping closer to hope, as though she could almost reach out and grasp it. The anticipation bubbling within her surged through every fiber of her being, igniting a fire of belief that had been dimmed in the dreary days following Valeria's accident. Upon arriving at the basilica, Liliana felt the weight of countless prayers that had been uttered in that sacred space. The ancient stones stood as silent witnesses to the fervent hopes of so many, a reminder that faith could manifest into miracles, transcending earthly obstacles. She stepped into the chapel, allowing herself a moment to inhale the ambience, the sacred scents of candles and incense swirling within. Just as before, she could feel Carlo's spirit hovering nearby, welcoming her with open arms. Kneeling before Carlo's tomb, she held the small image of him in her hands, the one worn from countless kisses and prayers. "Here I am again, Carlo," she began, her voice a steady murmur amidst the ambient silence. "I'm back because I need your help. My daughter Valeria is suffering, lost in her own world, and our family is falling apart without her. Please intercede for her and guide her back to us." As Liliana poured her heart out in prayer, she could not shake the warmth radiating through her, filling the room with a profound sense of peace. It was as if Carlo was nodding, acknowledging her pleas. "Please let her have the strength to fight. Grant her a total recovery so we can continue our lives together. I promise to nurture her faith and help her understand how vital she is to this world." Time seemed to stand still as she poured everything into that moment, arms spread wide, enveloped in a warmth only faith could offer. Tears streamed down her face, her heart breaking open as she whispered, "I believe. I know miracles are real, and I have faith that with your help we can heal our family's wounds." As she rose, wiping her tears, she felt a renewed sense of determination coursing through her veins. The pilgrimage had fueled her spirit, rekindling hope that had flickered dimly back in the hospital. She felt as if she had forged a fresh, unbreakable bond with Carlo, uniting their intentions as if they were locking arms in an unyielding embrace. Returning to the hospital days later, she was greeted by the same sterile corridors, but somehow, with Carlo's spirit invigorating her mind, the environment felt transformed. Eduardo stood waiting near Valeria's room, anxiety etched across his face. "How was it?" he asked, urgency fueling his concern. "It was powerful, Eduardo," she replied, a spark of light shining in her eyes. "I felt Carlo's presence with me. I believed that this time our prayers would reach him. I know in my heart that something is about to change." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they returned to Valeria's side. As they held her hands, the familiar sensations of despair began to soften, replaced by a newfound sense of anticipation and hope that hung in the air. Days turned into a blur as the couple continued their daily vigil by Valeria's bedside. They surrounded her with love, recounting memories, sharing laughter, and speaking to her as if she could hear every word. Each time they walked through the hospital corridors, whispers of prayers flitted between them, building an atmosphere of unwavering devotion. But one night, while sitting in the silence, the atmosphere outside felt different. A stillness enveloped Valeria's room like a cloak, heavy yet somehow brimming with anticipation. Eduardo leaned closer, wiping away the remnants of tears from Liliana's eyes. "Do you think she feels us?" he asked quietly, his voice filled with hope. "I believe she does," Liliana murmured, reaching out to caress her daughter's hair. "I know she can sense our love and our faith. We just have to keep encouraging her to fight." And then it happened. A faint sound broke through the stillness. A soft inhale, almost imperceptible yet powerful enough to send waves of hope crashing through both parents. They froze, hearts racing, breath caught in their chests as they leaned in closer to Valeria. Overwhelmed, they watched, spellbound, as the rhythm of her breathing began to grow more stable, moving away from the machine's unnerving beeping, becoming more natural, more human. "Valeria," Liliana whispered, her throat tight with emotion, "can you hear us?" The great uncertainty of the moment hung heavily in the air as hope came surging back, flooding their hearts with warmth. They were finally witnessing the miracle they had dared to pray for. Would Valeria awake? Would she find her way back to them? The question lingered as they held their breaths, watching, believing, and praying for their daughter's return to the light. The moments stretched into what felt like hours as Liliana and Eduardo remained rooted at Valeria's side, the silence around them thick and potent with anticipation. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor transformed into a symphony of hope, as the once monotonous tones now fluctuated with newfound life. With each gentle inhale, Valeria's chest rose higher, an encouraging sign that made the couple's hearts swell with both joy and disbelief. Look at her, Eduardo," Liliana breathed, her voice a mixture of disbelief and elation. "She's trying to come back to us." Eduardo nodded, his eyes brimming with tears as he began to whisper encouragement. "Valeria, if you can hear us, we are right here. Fight, sweet girl, we love you." His voice cracked with emotion, trembling as it carried the weight of the desperate prayers they had collectively woven over the last troubling weeks. As if in response to their heartfelt pledges, Valeria's fingers twitched ever so slightly, a small but significant movement that ignited an explosion of joy within the walls of the sterile hospital room. "Baby, can you hear us?" Liliana pressed, moving closer, placing her hand softly on Valeria's brow. "We've missed you so much. You are so loved. Just come back to us." The minutes slipped by as they each took turns speaking to Valeria, recounting their last moments together before the accident. A cherished family trip to the mountains, the laughter and the joy, the warmth of those memories flooding back like a balm. They described how friends and family were praying, how the world beyond hospital walls awaited her return, how much everyone loved her. And then, as if summoned by their combined faith, the miracle began to unfold. Suddenly, Valeria's eyes fluttered open, revealing the deep brown pools that had held so much wonder and vitality. The initial gaze was hazy, clouded by confusion, but slowly clarity emerged as she focused on her mother's face hovering above her. "Mom," the croaked whisper escaped Valeria's lips, barely audible but clear enough to shatter the tension suffocating the room. Liliana gasped, her heart racing as tears streamed down her face. "Oh my God, Valeria," she leaned in closer, her voice bubbling with joy. "You're awake, you are safe, my love." Valeria blinked, trying to process the warmth surrounding her, feeling the softness of her mother's hand grasping hers as if anchoring her to this reality. "What happened?" Confusion lingered in her voice, but so did a flicker of recognition. "You were in an accident, sweetheart," Eduardo interrupted, hastily moving forward, brushing his fingers across her forehead. "You've been fighting, but we never stopped praying for you, we never gave up hope." Valeria's gaze flickered between Eduardo and Liliana, piecing together fragments of memory like a puzzling tapestry. She took a shaky breath, pushing through the fog that clouded her mind. I remember," her words trailed off, uncertainty lacing her voice, yet the haunting darkness that had threatened to engulf her continued to recede. "You did an amazing job fighting through this," Liliana encouraged her, bending down to meet her daughter's gaze. And we prayed, Liliana and I prayed so hard, your dad and I never left your side. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a flurry of medical staff entered the room, their expressions shifting from professional calmness to astonishment as they witnessed the miraculous scene unfolding before them. They had expected one more day of constant vigilance, but instead, life surged forth in vibrant colors. Vital signs are stable, a nurse called out, clipboard in hand, eyes wide with disbelief. Shall we prepare for further testing? Absolutely, but not before we give her some time to adjust, Eduardo replied, his authoritative tone momentarily surprising as he stood protectively beside Liliana and their daughter. Valeria, we're so proud of you, Liliana beamed, relief washing over her as a newfound strength filled her daughter's room. Can you tell us how you feel? Valeria glanced around, still disoriented but reassured by her parents' unwavering presence. I feel warmth, like I was lost, but I've found my way back. I was so scared. But you're home now, Eduardo assured her, emotion thick in his voice. You're stronger than you know. You fought for us, you fought for yourself. As she processed his words, a wave of exhaustion washed over Valeria, yet the flicker of life reeled her back from the engulfing shadows. I was sad. I couldn't stay. I felt like I was being pulled away. You are brave, Valeria, just like we always believed, Liliana said encouragingly, wiping her tears of joy. You didn't leave us, you held on to hope, and look where it brought you. A nurse kneeled beside Valeria's bed, her professional demeanor softening as she offered a comforting smile. This is wonderful, but we'll need to monitor you and ensure everything checks out okay, sweetheart. Valeria nodded weakly, her heart fluttering in her chest, feeling the warmth of love surrounding her. The whirlwind of emotions swirled chaotically as memories flickered in her mind, interspersed with the comforting presence of her parents. In the days that followed, Valeria underwent various tests and evaluations from the medical team, each confirming that what had begun as an arduous journey was indeed a path toward healing. The joy of waking up was only compounded by her parents' unwavering love and support that wrapped around her like a protective cocoon. Each day, as she grew stronger, Valeria dedicated herself to learning how to reclaim her life. At times, flashes of anxiety would surface, but the steadfast presence of her parents emboldened her spirits whenever those familiar shadows threatened to creep back in. You did it once, you can do it again, Eduardo would whisper, reminding her of the strength she had shown in overcoming the barriers that had held her hostage for far too long. As the hospital doors drew closer, the family began to dream about what their reunion outside would entail. The thought of family gatherings, laughter, and the mundane reunion of ordinary life filled them with excitement. Would her friends be waiting for her? What stories would she tell them about overcoming her battle? When the day finally arrived for her to leave the hospital, anticipation rippled through every member of the Valverde family. The golden sunlight streamed through the windows, bathing the room in warmth, a perfect metaphor for the hope burgeoning in their hearts. In that moment, as the wheels of the wheelchair began to turn, Valeria realized that the miracle she had longed for was more than just surviving. It was thriving in a love that had fought tirelessly for her return. Liliana pushed the wheelchair forward, Eduardo walking beside them, and as they exited through the hospital doors, the air was filled with life, laughter, and a promise of brighter days ahead. Valeria drew in a deep breath, the radiant sun illuminating her path as she entered a world she knew was forever changed. As the wheelchair rolled through the hospital doors, Valeria felt an overwhelming rush of emotions flood over her. The sunlight streamed around her, a golden halo that bathed the world in warmth. For the first time in what felt like forever, she was free. As her father gently pushed her along the pathway leading to the parking lot, Valeria absorbed the vibrant colors and bustling sounds of life surrounding her. She could hear laughter echoing in the distance, children playing, and birds chirping in the trees lining the hospital grounds. Liliana walked alongside her, a radiant smile on her face, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. This moment is ours, Valeria, she said, her voice brimming with warmth. You did it, you fought like a warrior, and look where it brought you. Valeria's heart swelled at her mother's words. I couldn't have done it without you both, she replied, her voice unsteady but filled with gratitude. The journey had been grueling, yet anchoring herself in the love of her family had given her the strength to rise from the depths of despair. As they approached the car, Valeria noticed a crowd of familiar faces assembled in the parking lot. Friends and family had gathered to greet her, their expressions a mix of joy and relief. The vibrant colors of the banners they had crafted fluttered in the breeze, exclaiming words of welcome home, celebration, and strength. Valeria, a voice broke through, and she turned to find her closest friend, Sophia, rushing toward her. "You're back, we've all missed you so much." Sophia enveloped Valeria in a warm embrace, and Valeria instinctively responded, wrapping her arms around her friend. A surge of emotions jolted through her: love, friendship, and resilience. "I missed you too, Sophia," she said, her heart swelling. "You have no idea how much I need you right now." As she continued to greet other friends and family members, the atmosphere buzzed with warmth and positivity. Each hug, each smile reminded her of what she had fought for: life, connection, and love. Eduardo gently transferred Valeria from the wheelchair into the car, careful and conscious of her newfound fragility. As they settled into their seats, Liliana turned to face her. "Ready for our first adventure?" "More than ready," Valeria exclaimed, a spark of excitement igniting within her. The world outside blurred as they drove through the streets of Florence de San Carlos, and the familiar sights began to revive memories that filled her with a sense of belonging and comfort. The car pulled into the Valverde home, and as they stepped onto the warm wooden porch, Valeria felt an undeniable wave of nostalgia wash over her. The house held countless memories of laughter, tears, and love, and each corner felt like a refuge. "Wait until you see what we've prepared for your welcome home," Eduardo said, his eyes twinkling with pride. As they opened the front door, Valeria was greeted by a surge of sound and color. Streamers adorned the living room, balloons floated above, and a beautiful banner read, "Welcome back, Valeria." The sight left her breathless. "You all did this for me?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "Every bit of it," Liliana affirmed, fishing a small gift bag from a nearby table. "Open this, it's your welcome home present." Valeria carefully opened the bag to reveal a small journal, its cover adorned with intricate designs. "I thought you might want to document your journey, your growth, and all the incredible things waiting for you. Your story doesn't end here," Liliana said softly, brushing a gentle hand against her hair. Tears pricked at Valeria's eyes. This was more than just a journal. It symbolized the journey ahead, the healing she had yet to embrace, and the memories she would continue to create. As the day unfolded, old friends and family shared stories of adventure, laughter, and even challenges. Valeria felt cherished as she listened to tales of her courage and the unwavering faith her parents had carried through her darkest moments. The warmth of love surrounded her like a blanket, comforting and invigorating. As night approached, the celebratory atmosphere took on a sweet glow, with fairy lights strung across the yard, illuminating the faces of those she loved most. "Can we sit outside?" Valeria asked, her heart yearning for the fresh air. Liliana and Eduardo nodded approvingly, and soon they settled into a circle with friends gathered around, the sounds of laughter and soft music wafting through the night. "Valeria, we wanted to tell you how much you inspired us," Sophia began, her voice tender. "You showed us what true strength looks like, how to fight through darkness, and how love can heal even the greatest wounds." A comfortable silence enveloped the group as the stars began to twinkle overhead. "Thank you," Valeria murmured, shifting her gaze to the night sky. "There were times when I felt so lost, but I could feel each of you. I knew I wasn't alone. You all fueled my fight." As the stars glimmered above, Valeria realized that they too mirrored her journey. Each twinkling light represented a story, a moment of love and resilience stitched together in the fabric of life. She knew the journey ahead would not always be easy, but surrounded by her beloved family and friends, her heart brimmed with the understanding that she was not alone. In that soft twilight, she made a silent vow to embrace her experiences and document her journey, allowing herself to heal while carrying the love and strength of those who had fought with her. With each new day, she would continue to strive towards a future filled with promise, hope, and an unwavering determination to thrive in a world alive with possibilities. As laughter and stories filled the cool evening air, Valeria found solace in the idea that her story was just beginning. The miracle she had received was not just a return to life, but the opportunity to lead a life of purpose, sharing love and inspiration with all who surrounded her. She closed her eyes momentarily, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude to Carlo, her guiding light, before opening them again to face her bright new world. As Valeria settled back into her routine, she felt the fabric of her life shifting, intertwining threads of hope and purpose. The experience of being surrounded by her loved ones, their encouragement and support, had ignited a fire within her. Each morning, the sun would stream into her room like a symbol of new beginnings, fueling her determination to live not just for herself but for others. One Sunday afternoon, she gathered her parents around the kitchen table with a mission in mind. "I want to organize a community rally," she declared, her eyes sparkling with ambition. "A gathering to celebrate life, to share our stories, and to uplift those around us who are struggling. We need to show them they're not alone." Liliana exchanged a proud glance with Eduardo before nodding. "That's an incredible idea, Valeria. How can we help?" "What if we invite all the groups we've formed? We can incorporate our support group, friends, family, and local organizations that provide resources. It could be a day of healing and hope, and we can incorporate some activities that inspire connection," Valeria suggested, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. Over the next few weeks, the family worked tirelessly, fueled by the same resilience Valeria had shown during her recovery. They designed flyers, contacted speakers, and spread the word through social media. The community rallied behind her, excited to participate in an event that promised to celebrate resilience and healing. When the day of the rally arrived, the sun shone brightly over the park, casting a warm glow over the vibrant decorations that adorned the space. Valeria stood at the front, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "This is it," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath as she scanned the crowd gathered before her. "Welcome, everyone," Valeria called into the microphone, her voice steady and strong as it echoed through the park, reaching the eager ears of the attendees. "Thank you for being here today. We're here to celebrate life, to share our stories, and to remind each other that no matter the challenges we face, we are stronger together." Applause erupted, and as Valeria surveyed the faces, some familiar, others new, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Each person gathered represented a journey, a story interwoven with her own. Throughout the day, workshops and discussions unfolded, blending moments of laughter, introspection, and inspiration. Members of the support group shared their stories of struggle and resilience, each one adding depth to the narrative of hope woven throughout the park. An artist set up a space for creativity, inviting attendees to paint messages of hope on a large canvas that would soon fill with colors and words of encouragement. Sophia hosted a session focusing on mindfulness and self-care, reminding everyone of the importance of nurturing their mental health. Valeria watched as people opened up to one another, sharing their vulnerabilities and exchanging words of encouragement. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Valeria took the stage once more, the energy buzzing in the air. "I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here today. You are all part of this incredible tapestry of life. Your stories matter. Every tear and every smile is crucial. Our experiences bind us together." She paused, allowing the warmth of her words to settle. "In my darkest moments, I felt so lost, yet every one of you has played a role in guiding me back to the light. And I want you to know that just like those stars we looked at together, you are not alone on this journey." Suddenly, she felt compelled to share her personal story. The room fell silent as Valeria spoke of her journey through the depths of despair following the accident, the struggle to find her voice amidst the pain, and the love that had swept in, guiding her through the darkness. A story of Carlo's intercession and the miraculous moments that brought her back to life. The emotional connection in the space deepened, tears were shed, and once again, Valeria felt the collective heartbeat of hope reverberating through the crowd. As the rally came to a close, Valeria was overwhelmed by a sense of accomplishment and unity that filled the park. People hugged, exchanged contact information, and promised to support one another in their journeys. Leaving the park, Valeria spotted an elderly woman observing the canvas with tears streaming down her face, joy mixed with relief. Valeria approached her gently. "Are you okay? Is there anything you'd like to share?" The woman smiled softly through her tears. "This event, it's reminded me that I'm not alone. I lost my husband recently and I felt so isolated, but today, seeing all these stories, it gives me hope." Valeria took her hands in a comforting gesture. "Thank you for being here. Your story matters, and I believe together we can all find light again." As the sun sank behind the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Valeria realized that the impact of the day would ripple through their community. This was just the beginning of a journey she felt destined to walk, that through love and shared experiences, they could echo the miracle of faith and healing into the hearts of many. With Carlo's guiding light shining fiercely, Valeria knew in her heart that spreading hope was her purpose, and she was ready to embrace the next chapter of her life with open arms and an open heart. A truly deserved lesson. If you agree, please like this video and subscribe for more stories, and tell us what you thought in the comments.